Welcome to the Nick Bryant podcast. Today, my guest is former Israeli spy Ari Ben-Menashe. How you doing today, Ari?
I'm fine. How are you?
Not too bad. I generally have a nocturnal lifestyle, but Ari's gotten me up at 7 in the morning. So I've drank a lot of coffee and I'm ready to roll. Ari has a very interesting history. He was an Israeli spy for a number of years, but the Israeli government said he was just a translator. And then it came out that he was a spy. And then the United States incarcerated him by saying that he was putting together arms deals for the Iranians when actually he was helping the Israelis, and he was acquitted. And then he said something that was quite profound. He said that there was an October surprise, that the Reagan administration, primarily William Casey and George Herbert Walker Bush, put together a secret arms deal with the Iranians, and the Iranians would hold the American hostages that were seized under Ayatollah Khomeini until Reagan was elected. And lo and behold, that's what happened. But the House spent God knows how many hours and produced a 200-page pamphlet or book saying that there was no October surprise. But this year, the New York Times actually came out and said there was an October surprise. So Ari has been vindicated on in a number of different ways. How do you feel about that, Ari?
Yeah, I always knew I was telling you the truth. That's all.
Well, it's kind of a drag, though. You had to spend a year in jail. I mean, to vindicate
I got
yourself.
acquitted. Yeah,
But I don't think you really had an alternative with that one.
man, not really.
They tried to keep you in jail and break you and say you were guilty, but you decided I'm not gonna. And actually, Israel made some overtures toward you to take care of you after you did your time, but you said no thanks. That's
That's
admirable.
right. I
So
went to trial and I got acquitted.
So Ari is going to tell us about the Middle East and what's really going on. A number of mainstream media outlets tell us what's going on about the Middle East, but it just doesn't seem to kind of add up. And there's a seeming apocalypse going on now in the Middle East. And Ari is going to elucidate us with truth. So last year, Hezbollah started a war with Israel. Although Israel had known about the attack for about a year, they didn't seem to do anything to counteract the attack. And that started the apocalypse that's going on now. Could you give us a little insight into that, Ari?
Um, Netanyahu government wanted a war to start. They thought Hamas and Hezbollah will attack. They had the information, but they didn't think it was going to be so bad on October 7 last year. They really didn't think it was going to be so bad. They thought it will be an excuse to start a war, the Netanyahu government. But they got it wrong.
So tell us what they got wrong.
Sorry?
Tell us what they got wrong.
What they got wrong was the ability of Hamas to attack Israel.
They did not
And
think that the attack would be as devastating as it was.
as devastating. But the fact is that Netanyahu even knew the date of the attack. Just a little sideshow. The Iranian Shah, the son of the former king of Iran, who lives in the United States, sometime in 2023, ran to Israel and met Netanyahu and gave him details of the expected attack from his sources in Iran. He thought he was doing Netanyahu and Israel a favor by giving them the information. He even gave him the date of the attack. But anyway, this is the Shah of Iran, the younger fellow that lives in the United States.
The Shah was a little bit on the draconian fascist side, and he wasn't nice to people that spoke out against him. And of course, the U.S. helped him build his secret police force. Why would Israel believe the son of the disgraced, disposed Shah?
The guy had intelligence. He shared it with the Israelis.
So he is still plugged into Iran to a certain degree and still has connections.
He says he is.
Well, he must be, or someone must be, because
He must know something. He gave the date of the attack, and it turned out to be accurate.
so now we have Israel versus Hezbollah and Hamas and major carnage. What do you think is going to be the outcome of this?
Well, we have to look at the background. At this point, the United States government is trying to make a deal with the Iranians. The Iranians would like such a deal. Their economy is tanking. I'm speaking about the mullahs. Yes.
Yeah.
They
And the mullahs are the holy men
they just got rid of their extremist president. They put in a president that wants to do a deal with the United States, and they're working on a deal right now as we speak to get to. And this gets Mr. Netanyahu very upset because he might lose an enemy if this deal comes through.
Well, if this deal comes through, he might not only lose an enemy, but he might lose an ally too.
He might lose an ally as well because the Americans had enough of him.
And when you say the Americans had enough of Netanyahu, what do you mean by that? Just his homicidal tendencies, the way that he's going about,
and the way he's going about things, and they're hoping to get another prime minister, another government that is more reasonable.
With Israeli history, we saw one prime minister who really tried to work out a solution with the Palestinians. His name was Yitzhak Rabin, and he was assassinated. And although other Israeli prime ministers have said that they would work out a deal with the Palestinians, they have not. They haven't. They've completely abrogated what they had said throughout their running for prime minister. Netanyahu is a different beast. He's always been a hawk. Because I write about blackmail and compromise and compromise, I've become a lightning rod for people to tell me various things. And I have been told that Netanyahu is compromised, which would make him completely obsequious to the hawks in the Israeli government. Do you think that that could be a possibility, or do you think he's just naturally homicidal?
I believe he's naturally homicidal. I believe even, you know, in Israel to be compromised doesn't mean anything. Yes, he's naturally homicidal. He doesn't care what people say about him.
But do you think that there could be some that he could be compromised in some way by the hawks in the Israeli?
Very possible. Very possible.
So we've got Netanyahu waging this war, and then we've got the United States coming in. Why would the United States want to befriend Israel? Or
Well,
befriend Iran. Why would they want to befriend Iran?
Iran is a big country, 100 million people, lots of oil. It was a U.S. ally for many years in the Middle East. And the United States was always allies with the Iranians on one side and with the Arabs on the other side. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And there was sort of a balancing the relationship between the Iranians and the Arabs. And life went on.
And the Iranians are different than the Arabic countries. They
Of course
speak
they are.
they
A
they speak
different,
they speak Farsi, and they're culturally much different.
they're different people. What do you mean?
Yeah, I mean, well, Americans just think of the Middle East as one big chunk of
No, no, no.
Islam, and
The, when Khomeini was asked when he first took over Iran, when he was asked about Jerusalem, when is he going to take over Jerusalem? He said the road to Jerusalem is through Mecca and Medina, meaning it was going to take over Saudi Arabia and then Israel.
and
This goes
the
back 30 years. That was it.
what's that?
This goes back 30 or 40 years. 40 years. Yes.
And the Israelis have helped Iran in the past.
Correct.
And how did they do that?
The Israelis armed the Khomeini regime in the 1980s against Saddam Hussein's attack on Iran.